Hi guys, it's Jamie here, and for once I have a clean canvas. Today's project is going to be an abstract representation of the 4th of July. This canvas is for those who want sizes, but you don't have to do yours the same size, and you can use an old canvas. 40 centimetres or 15.5 inches by 30 centimetres or 11.5 inches. I've done it horizontally. You can do this either way. And I've drawn a line that's about 5/8 of the way down the canvas. So this is my sky and land area, and this is my sea area. And for the time being, that is all we're doing with this canvas. Using some book pages, we're going to cut away the margins. And you've done that with various pieces. What you want to consider is creating an abstract city skyscraper skyline with these pieces of paper. So some will be wider, some will be slimmer. For example, like that. Then you have to think about, well, what shapes do we get at the top of skylines? And you may want to look at some photos, but not all shapes are rectangles. Sometimes they have like a circular style building. What you're looking to do is to get several pieces like this one. I could just cut straight up that bit. Different text preferably, but you can start to stack to make building shapes. Take your white gesso and add a layer of primer, including your sides, so you wrap around. This has now had a couple of layers of white gesso. What I'm going to do now is take my acrylic turquoise. We'll start with that much. We're not mixing it up, we're just adding water to it. Initially, I'm going to use a brayer. Simply do this kind of thing. I'm going to get my brush. I'm going to worry that's going that way. I'm going to just go down some bits as well. Grab some of this. No plan. I'm going to put this on a tilt. And the reason I'm putting this on a tilt is I want to take this line, which is my water line. Then I want to grab some water and encourage that to run. I want to dry this off fairly quickly because I want to do a fairly quickish piece for me. We're going to start to layer up using some matte gel medium, these bits of paper that could potentially be skyscrapers. To get that on. Obviously, if we were looking at, say, a New York skyline, we'd have several slightly in front and behind. Now we are building a skyline. For example, we could have a small gap because you do have streets after all, and put this big one in. You will continue to build this skyline. So that was the slightly rounded one. Probably best to smooth it down as you go along. I don't have a long enough piece of paper, so I am going to have to go with something like this. To get the tower shape, I'm just going to fold it in half, cut that up, put that here. I want to get some different buildings, shapes, keep building different levels. Here's the skyline, full of different shapes, skyscrapers, slightly different roofs, that type of thing. Because we want to do this for the 4th of July, here are the colours that I've got so far. I'm not saying I will stick with all of these. I have a white, a red, a vermilion and an ultramarine. What I'm going to do is just take one of my buildings, try to create it into the background. May have to switch to a paintbrush, but I'm hoping not to. I'm going to go straight down there, which I know is not a straight line. To vaguely, I don't know if this is going to work, but it wouldn't have worked with a paintbrush either, so we'll go with it. I kind of think I could get a bit of tissue. I quite like that. I want to create some shading as well. For example, we could have a bit of shadowing this way. I'm so used to doing this with oils, which is much, much thicker. Come round with the red. I don't know if I like this or not. It's getting that modern vibe, which I wanted. I'm just not sure how keen I am on it. I think a solution might be to let it dry and then go in with a black marker or something. Still want some more red, but I'm not happy with how that's mixing in that. Now we're getting a brighter red through this building, which is more what I was looking for. I don't know. I think I'm going to give up on the palette and go to a paintbrush, maybe, though my skills with a paintbrush aren't great either, because I'm not loving this. Pull that up as much as I can. Now I'm getting an effect I quite like. Pull it off and I'm getting there. Well, that's one to remember. Try with a paintbrush as well and see what happens. If we put some white through this building, I have now dried it off a little bit. I do not want pink, that's the only thing. Okay, I think what I'll be doing is getting a base down and then going with some oil pastels probably. I'm not getting what I want here at all. So that's slightly better. Blue again, this time with a brush. This may be easier, you never know. I think it is actually easier. Straight lines, why did I do anything that involves straight lines? That's just mad. Okay, that's what I chose to do, so that's what I'm doing. I'm going to press that one up as well, because why not? That one didn't press up as much, admittedly, but you could damp it down and press it up. I think I prefer using a brush, but that's the whole point of these, is to experiment. Let's make a shadowy colour. I'm mixing the red and the blue. Weird, but we will go with it. Sides of buildings then in the dark colour. I don't know, I've probably got too many blue buildings now. Let's just see what happens when I do that. Ah, no. I will just go back over things. I'm getting some blocky building shapes in there. I'm not loving these, but I think I can get there with that. Quite no, I think I've got a red in there. It's okay, let's just put that down. Like it's a thingy, aerial mast type thing. Going over this with white before it's dry, which is probably a mistake as I want boldish colours, but we'll see. Giving a bit more 3D on that. Some white on here. Okay, going this way because if this was office blocks, although those wouldn't be windows, well, they would be windows. That would be kind of how the light hits, maybe. Dab up some stuff. See how we're feeling about it. A bit minimalist, but we'll see what happens if we do that. Does that then give the impression of an office block? It actually does. How weird is that? Let's get some red. Wow, that's a red. Getting an idea of what I want to do now. Right, I shall keep painting these in with these very, very basic colours and see how this comes on. Sometimes it's just good to step away from a canvas. So where I didn't like this, it's growing on me. I do have my oil pastels here. I'm going to use these to add some more shading into this. I'm going to just come in and throw some very, very bright highlighty style colours on here, and using a finger rub them in. I'm going to work with a lot of blues. I may even bring in things like rulers. Look at how that makes that pop already. That's so much better. This is still a red building, but I don't want it to be, I want it further back, so I do want to keep it back from this one. I may get a dark blue. Just going to play at getting colours on here, trying to make some little shapes reflect what's going on shadow wise, make the whole building pop a bit more. When you rub it, you bring it the colour down a bit, so you can either have real pops of colour or you can just imply it. Here we've maybe got a bit that we don't want. Lighten that area and create that feeling that there's a road going up there. Here we have something a little bit darker. I'm going to find a very dark blue. Bring some blue in. We're going to come in and get this roof line sorted. Where do we want something a bit stronger? We can do that. So we can just start to put in some stronger lines here, connect them like that. Totally imaginary building. Let's get some of that blue going through this red. Down here we have a side of a building that's kind of gone all over the place. So let's get the ruler out. Now that's a bit more like it. Much happier now with how it's coming together. So I'm just like pulling out lots of colour. That's helping me define how these buildings are going to go as well. This is messy. So let's come in with something dark. Because this is now really waxy, I have never tried this before. I'm going to try putting the matte medium over it. It'll probably run it. What I'm hoping to do is create a surface that I can still add colour to when it's dried off. They're not running too much into each other, which is what I did expect to happen when I did this, so that's not a bad sign. I'm back the next day to work on this. This still isn't quite as abstract as I want it. This building's too big. There are things to do. I'm going to go back to using some of the acrylic paints and put in some blocks of colour. Now that we've got these shadings in, I'm going to see if using that gel medium means I can use now acrylic paint. And I still want to try and get a spatula type look to this. I may have to thicken it up. I don't know. And that's a bit more how I was thinking of doing these things. More oil paint like, random maybe. Switch to a brush for some of this. Using the matte medium seems to have worked. There is no patterning to this, it's just whatever I want to put a block of colour. I'm going to also go over some of this. Having dried some bits off, I'm going to go back in with 2 different size brushes, add some more depth to the white. Off camera a little bit, I've just been playing with mark making and using a thinner brush in different ways. So either horizontal stripes, vertical lines, little dots using the edge, so that each building has something slightly different going on it, but very faint. Now I'm going to come back in with the white again in the oil pastel, go over some of this. I want them to pop. Taking one of the reds, go over some bits of it. It's beginning to kind of get that feel. In some ways, I'm probably only taking it back to what we had right at the beginning, I suppose. I'm taking the matte gel medium and going back over all of this to give it a surface that will not be paint resistant. I'm starting to have one last go at building on these strips of colour, and what I am doing is now rubbing them because it's giving that effect that I was looking for, a slightly blended but more oil based painted effect. So I'm trying to alternate between my fingers and blend different colours together, only gently. pull the colour through, and then you're getting some shading where they're mixing anyway, but you're still getting the brightness. I'm liking that. It's definitely getting that oil painted look that I was looking for while still being a cityscape. Okay, here's where we're at. I'm much happier with that. I want to tidy up this skyline using a clean oil pastel. The big experiment bit, I'm going to take the red acrylic paint. Ooh, didn't mean it to go down the side, mind. I'm going to go along here. I want it going up into the buildings and along the edge. Tip that, water with spray, get it to run. Help it down a bit so it's not quite such a dramatic break between the lighter, paler bits and the darker bits. I need to hold that at an angle so it's not easy to film. And we're going to let that dry. Now I'm going to do the same with the blue, which is the ultramarine. Here's how I've finished the canvas. I've gone round the edges in a blue paint and done a coat of spray and shine over the top, which has given it a light gloss finish. That is my abstract representation of New York and July the 4th. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and I will catch you very soon. Bye!